Hello, and welcome to Ask a Historian, brought to you by Heritage Mississauga. I'm Matthew Wilkinson, your host and historian with Heritage Mississauga. Together, we will dive into the fascinating stories that shape our city. Remember, you can send your questions to history@heritagemississauga.org and help us explore more local stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us and stay connected with Heritage Mississauga's programs and events. On today's episode of Ask a Historian, we are excited to welcome several special guests. Mayor Carolyn Parrish, Ward 5 Councillor Natalie Hart, and Malton BIA Chair Sam Kohli will join us as we celebrate the return of the Avro Arrow to Mississauga with the unveiling of the Avro Arrow replica at the Flight Garden at Paul Coffey Park in Malton on Thursday, August 27th. The Avro Arrow, the plane, the story, the legend, the myth, it's come back to where it all began more than 70 years ago. The scale replica of the famed jet that now graces the park up in Malton is a short distance away from where the plane was originally created. The Avro Arrow replica will be unveiled on Thursday, August 27th at 7:30 p.m. at the Flight Garden in Paul Coffey Park in Malton. The CF-105 Avro Arrow was a supersonic delta-wing jet interceptor aircraft designed and built by Aviation Canada Limited in Malton, Ontario, which of course is now part of the city of Mississauga. As a culmination, it was the culmination of a design study that began in 1953. Go-ahead for production was given in 1955, and the first CF-105 Avro Arrow, designated as RL-201, was rolled out for public view on October 4th of 1957. The first test flight of the Avro Arrow took place on March 25th, 1958. The CF-105 marked a major advance in aircraft design. The first 5 flying prototyped aircraft were powered by Pratt & Whitney J75 engines, which produced approximately 80% of the thrust of the engines that were intended for the Arrow. But even with these engines, the aircraft exceeded all RCAF requirements and expectations. The CF-105 never flew with its intended engines, which were the Arenda PS-13 Iroquois. The CF-105 program was beset by political and financial concerns and the changing nature of potential threats. Escalating costs associated with the development program were also a major concern. Despite its promising technological capabilities, the CF-105 program was abruptly canceled by the federal government on Friday, February 20th of 1959. In what became known as Black Friday. About 13,800 employees at the Malton facility lost their jobs, and impacts of the cancellation were felt right across historic Mississauga and indeed all of Canada. In the weeks that followed, all 5 flying arrows were ordered destroyed, along with all drawings, specifications, reports, tooling, parts, and associated materials. Disposal began on March 18th, 1959. A number of component parts escaped this destruction, however, and many pieces of the Arrow have found their way over time into museums' collections. This dramatic scale replica of the Avro Arrow that is now in the Flight Garden up in Malton represents a culmination of a multi-year community effort led by the Malton Business Improvement Area, the City of Mississauga, corporate partners, and private donors. The idea was born with interim councillor Dave Cook, led by the vision of the Malton BIA Chair Sam Kohli, Mississauga Mayor Carolyn Parrish, and the City of Mississauga Ward 5 Councillor Natalie Hart, amongst many others. The project grew through a collaborative partnership and guided it from the initial idea to a permanent landmark. The replica was built by Stainless Outfitters Incorporated in Barrie and was installed in July. As an extension of the project, the former Legion Memorial Gardens, now the Flight Garden, has also undergone a major rejuvenation, including the relocation of the Malton Cenotaph. The Avro Arrow joins the CF-100 Avro Canuck, which was installed here in 1972 and underwent a significant restoration of its own in 2017. The Avro Arrow replica celebrates one of Canada's greatest aeronautical achievements and the local legacy that inspired it, right back where it all began, right here in Malton, in Mississauga. Well, Thank you for joining us, Mayor Parrish. What a moment, or what a happening for Mississauga. And I know you've been the champion of this, driving this from day one. But I just wanted to. It has to be a little surreal now that you see the plane, the Avro Arrow up on a pedestal in Malton. I know it's been a long road, so I wanted to take a step back and talk about how we got to where we are. Um, I recall, I think it was you announced it at a meeting of the Heritage Advisory Committee, that there was a meeting that took place, I think, in former Councillor Dave Cook's office when the idea first came to light. And it was almost 10 years ago that you said, "Hey, we're going to do this."
That's right. That's right.
How did it come about?
Well, this is going to show you my age. I can remember playing in the schoolyard at Fairbank Memorial Public School and the most enormous boom overhead. And it was the Avro being flown and breaking the sound barrier. And we were just blown away. The teachers didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what it was. By the next day, they'd done some research and found out that this was the first supersonic jet to be flown. So that was amazing for Canada. And it's funny when you're a kid, things like that stay with you. And it stayed with me a long time. And I can remember the sadness in the front page of I think it was the Toronto Telegram paper that said that the Diefenbaker had canceled the project. And I can remember being personally upset because I had thought it was just a spectacular thing to have. I know subsequently that it devastated the workforce in Malton and also in Streetsville
Yep.
and parts of the GTA. Everybody laid off. It caused quite a stir. But how I got involved in it, Dave Cook's a real fanatic on it. And he said to me, I don't see why we can't build a model. He says, you've got the CF-100 up there. He said, that's where it was built. Let's give it a try. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. So we went to Heritage first. At that point, it was called not Heritage, Tourism.
Tourism.
And we went to Tourism first, and we made the case that it would draw tourists to Malton, which I believe it's going to in droves. And we got started with $1 million from them. So things went on after that. I raised another 2 million by hook or by crook. And then COVID hit and the costs went up. So sadly, instead of a full size arrow, it's about a 78% size arrow, but that's okay. Once it's up in the air, it's just gorgeous.
It's stunning. It's and sorry, I'm thinking of you, and we bringing fireworks back to City Hall, and I think people don't say no when you come asking. I don't think.
Oh yeah, they do. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
they
they do.
okay.
Sometimes you have to twist arms and sometimes you have to cry and pretend you're very distraught like a typical female. No, actually it's I'm very strong-willed, as you've probably figured out.
Yeah.
And when I set my bonnet on something, it's away I go.
So perhaps, I mean, you may have already just covered this, but this thing is probably not smooth sailing the entire way. I imagine that COVID, of course, was bumps in the road. Good Lord, we look at the world now and what's going on with tariffs and all those sorts of things with products, but not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but some of the hurdles, like what were some of the things you had to overcome, in just going from a dream to an inception, a reality, fabrication, etc.
Well, first of all, we had to line up, and I have to give credit to Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. They helped us repaint and refurbish the CF-100. So I went straight to them, and they got very excited, and they were very helpful. So once we had sort of an anchor like that that could get us some of the contacts we needed, that helped. And then next, it obviously was working through the city to make sure that we had a way of properly handling the money because it was all mostly outside funding and donors. And I can remember Hazel McCallion telling her foundation they normally did not exceed $5,000 per application. She went to 25,000. It's just sad that she didn't live to see it. She was pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
So then when we hit COVID, the price went up. All the price of materials and the price of labor, everything went through the roof. So instead of canceling the project, which we were afraid we'd have to do, the designer and manufacturer, Andrew O'Connor from Stainless Outfitters, said, why don't we just scale everything back to 78 to 80% size? And he said, we can still come in under budget. And he did so. He was amazing. But what it pulled together, and Frank Giannoni, for example, offered to build the pedestal and do the foundation. That was $250,000 that he just did. But these are all people who have a romantic image of Canada as a pioneer in flight. And we're still here in Malton, we've got the third largest aerospace collection of companies anywhere in Canada. So yeah, we hit bumps, but every bump we hit, somebody stepped forward and helped us level it off. So we just kept going. And I'm surprised it took 9 years. And the day that it was being lifted in pieces off the flatbed, I had tears rolling, and so did Sam Kohli from the BIA. Helped us a lot because we had to use them as the conduit for the funding.
Yeah.
The money had to go to them, and then they paid the manufacturer. Everybody got a tax receipt out of the city, but it still was an arm's length sort of
Right.
process. So Sam was fantastic.
Well, I'll be talking to Sam a little bit later, actually. So it's something like this, and you've mentioned names already, but the Stainless Outfitters and Andrew, Malton BIA, something like this obviously takes an army
It does.
to create.
Yeah.
Who are there others that we should hat tip to in terms of just the contributions that they made to help bring this thing to reality?
Well, Andrew O'Connor can tell you who the designer was. There was a design company that put in about $250,000 of free designs. We happened to have a purloined diagram of all the inner workings of the plane, and those people adapted it. I think if you actually add up all the donated free time and effort, it's about a $4, maybe $5 million project. And you couldn't really build that with a team of people that are volunteers unless their hearts were in it. And there were hearts deeply in it. So it was a big project. I didn't realize how big it was when we started. I think I thought, yeah, we'll just collect the money. We'll send letters out to all the folks that we can think of that are into aerospace across the country. It was a flat zero. Mitsubishi was good. GTAA gave us some stone, which we ended up using on the park. But you didn't get money from where you expected it, but you got money from where you didn't expect it, which was very exciting. But there were heroes involved. I mentioned a few, but I probably will miss too many if I do that. They'll all be on the plaque. There's a brass plaque that's being installed. But the real hero is Andrew O'Connor. To me, the project would never have happened if we didn't have a man who was so creative, had the plant, was willing to put some of his bread and butter projects on the table to take this massive thing and fill his whole work area. But his heart was in it 100%, and he just kept going. So that man is a hero to me. There are a lot of people involved in this that really cared.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference. You can't build something, think about it, it's frivolous.
Yeah.
It's not going to fly.
Yep.
Although we had to have it wind tested because it's up on a pedestal. We don't want it to take off. So that wind testing was done, but it's something that's totally impractical, but it's historical.
Yep.
It gives inspiration to the young people in Malton where they need it the most, because Malton is not exactly the most wealthy part of our city.
Yep.
And it shows them what we can do here in Malton, here in Mississauga, and it's a point of pride, but it's also a strong memory of something extremely important in our history.
You're brilliantly segueing into the next part. I was saying, what do you hope this brings to Mississauga and Malton? I mean, you talk about inspiration. I mean, it really is an inspiring thing to see, but then to reflect on terms of this community created this in its original form and now has a legacy piece, I guess, in a way. Tourism, you talked about that. Like, what is your hopes for this in terms of what it brings to the city?
Well, I think it's going to put Malton on the map and Mississauga. I think there are arrow buffs all over the world. I think it will bring people in. Maybe if you're going to a conference in Mississauga and you happen to remember the arrow, or your parents or grandparents were hooked on it, you'll come out and have a look, have lunch, walk around the park. I think it will bring some tourism in. The situation of it, we need to do something about a bridge across Derry, because the trucks flying by there
Yeah.
are a little bit they slow people down. But we've renovated the park attached to it, and we've got a bridge now over the creek so that people don't have to walk along the road to get to it. So I think it's gonna encourage some tourism. But as far as I'm concerned, there's two really significant issues. One is the history of it giving Malton itself, little village of Malton, a lot of pride. And it kind of makes up for all the job losses and the broken hearts, because you can still talk to grandkids, adult grandkids of people who work there, and they can tell you how painful it was. So it gives them something to hang on to. And it also gives a lot of the students up there. I know Mitsubishi takes 100 students every summer and has them do little jobs in their plant to see if they're interested in working in aerospace. But this is going to tell them this is what we built. And as I say, if we can get the Lancaster, a form of the Lancaster, then we've got the Triple Crown, because those are the three planes that were built there. Lancaster, because they bombed the Lancaster plant in England, so we started building them here for them. So it's history, it's pride, it's tourism, and it's inspiration.
You must be forecasting my thoughts. My next one was, what's the next plan for the flight garden in Malton?
Well, I've sought out a couple of Lancasters. I know there's one still flying out of Hamilton.
Yeah.
There's one in Prince Edward County that's not airborne.
Yeah.
It's sitting on the ground somewhere, and I think they've already committed it to somebody else. There's one in pieces out west somewhere.
Yep.
So there's no reason why we can't do what we did with this one and build ourselves a brand new one and put the Triple Crown in there. There's space for it.
I would never doubt you that you can bring it. For those coming, I mean, we have the unveiling coming up on Thursday evening this week on the 27th at 7:30 p.m. What a thrill! I imagine, just not only for the city but for you personally. I mean, this has been a long run to see it up there and to really, like you said, it's a legacy piece for the city, for the history of the community, for the people of Malton today. It's such a win-win for an inspiring story, I think. And just I want to say thank you for everything you've done. That is a very simple thing to say. I know it's a large project, but just it wouldn't have come to be without you, and to the army that we're part of this as well. But we will see you on Thursday night, and it is a remarkable. I encourage everyone to go up and see the Arrow airborne again.
Yeah, I hope it's never airborne. But it's interesting because the pedestal is dark and
Yeah,
there's dark evergreens behind it. It looks like it's
it
flying, but
does. It very much
it's not
does.
making any progress, but that's good.
Well, with that, Mayor Parrish, thank you so much. I wish you all the best moving forward, and for today and for the future of the Flight Garden in Malton. I think just a remarkable vision that you've had for this, and just encourage you going forward as well.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Who knew when you were a little kid at Froebel that we would be still working together?
I treasure every moment of it.
Thank you for the interview. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Councillor Hart, for joining us here on this episode of Ask a Historian as we explore the Avro Arrow replica coming home to Malton. And I know this has been a passion project for you, but again, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm really excited to talk about the Avro Arrow. Also really excited to talk about Malton anytime I get to.
Well, let's do both. I think we can certainly explore kind of what's going on in the community as well. But you've been, I understand, and you've been involved with the Avro Arrow replica long before I was aware it was even a project. I recall, I think about 9 years ago, it being announced at the Heritage Advisory Committee by then Councillor Parrish. And but you were involved with it from its inception. But what inspired you to get involved in the project itself? I mean, at some point you got to be, you want to do what?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a little bit of that, of course. We're gonna try and do what now? But it also just makes sense when you look at the park itself, the CF-100 that's already there, and the idea of showcasing our aerospace talent, both from a historical point of view, but it's also important to emphasize, and I'll be doing this all week and from now until forever, the importance of the aerospace industry in our community today. We remain the largest node for aerospace industry in Canada. And we have some of the best workforce, the most skilled people, and we're seeing major investments from both the companies and different sources, like the federal government ordering the Challenger series here in Malton to be built. So while this was a bleak moment, it's also an incredible achievement and stepping stone to our future. And part of that future is here now, but part of that future is still to come.
I love that bridge. This is really a bridge between time and time. I think it's first of all, for anyone who hasn't seen it, that is go up, take a drive by. It is breathtaking.
Yes.
But that idea of what it brings to Malton and the community and the inspiration and this connection, it's got a, I don't know, were there tears in the eyes when that went up?
I mean, yeah, I think like it was a long project. It started obviously from an idea of then Councillor Parrish, now Mayor Parrish concept, but going from concept to plans and finding fabricators, finding donors, doing all of that work, coming to council a number of times and presenting at council around how we were going to use the funding and asking councillors for donations, asking corporations for donations, PowerPoints. I wrote, I don't know how many grant applications for that project. And it was really challenging because, from a perspective at that time, it didn't fit what people were looking for, right?
Mhm.
It was not public art, but it was not a historical monument, but it was not a museum, but it was not a event, but it was not so there's a lot of things it wasn't. But what it is and what it remains is something really demonstrating in a physical capacity the impact that innovation has in our communities. And so it was certainly sometimes a little bit of a headbanger. And I spent a lot of time rewriting grant applications and speaking to people in Heritage at the federal level, the provincial level, being cultural groups from the same thing, and again, sometimes not really getting very far, but we did manage to put it together. And we didn't exceed the budget that we raised for it, which I think is a tremendous accomplishment. So it took longer than we wanted, but we brought it in on budget. And I think that's a tremendous testament to the dedication of so many people that were involved in the project all the way along.
But I wanted to come back to the many people thing. I know it takes an army, but you yourself, I mean, you wore different hats in this process. You started out with the chair of the Malton BIA, then a little election happened, and now you're
Yeah.
counselor. So you've seen this at different avenues.
And actually, I saw this before I was the general manager of the BIA. So my role with the BIA started actually, sort of there was an existing GM. Uh, I came in to help with the Canada Day event because at the time I had been running festivals like Ribfest, et cetera, across much of the community. There was a little election thingy in 2018, which I did not win. And so found myself looking for new opportunities. And then Councillor Parrish asked if I'd be interested in helping with Canada Day. And I said yes. And so we started to go through that. And then she's like, would you be interested in taking this on? Because it's the grant applications, it's the other things like that you've done before. And then eventually I shifted into the whole GM role. But the first two projects were really Canada Day and the Avro Arrow. And so it's been something that I've been involved with. It's hard to believe it's been 9 years, but yeah, it's certainly been an exciting 9 years with a lot of changes. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention Jay Shree,
Yes.
the current GM for the Malton BIA, who has been instrumental in landing this plane. I might have been, doing the work of getting it launched and to the runway, but she absolutely brought it home. And it's a tremendous amount of detail and work that you're doing. This is, probably the largest scale of public art being funded through and or overseen by a third party being given back into the city of Mississauga. Right? We've had smaller instances like from the Vietnamese community and from other communities where they've donated a public art piece or we've seen that sort of thing, but we've never had this private-public partnership in the same way as this particular project. And so there was a lot of learning that you do when you were the first to do something on this larger scale. The contract signing, I can remember the anxiety that Sam had and Pardeep and I had as we were going through this, because this, at the time we were one of the smallest BIAs in terms of budgets to take on this commitment, that would obligate us into this financial, situation was a little bit, like, should we, are we, should we? And so kudos to everyone for having faith in the vision and being able to bring it forward.
And I can just imagine as you shifted your roles in the process too, you take on more probably a shepherding role in a way as the process. But again, hat tip to Jay Shree. She's been wonderful to deal with. I know she's a mover and shaker in her own right. And mentioned earlier, just in reference that it takes a lot of people to do a job like this or to bring it to reality. Can you reflect on some of the people that have had a significant role or played a role in bringing this to life?
Sure. I mean, obviously, we all know that this was, really now Mayor Carolyn Parrish's dream for this area, soon to be joined by the dream of a Lancaster, which I will admit is very close to my heart. My grandfather flew in the Lancasters. He was a rear gunner.
Wow.
So I will move mountains to bring that to life, to honor his legacy in terms of the commitment I've been able to have for our community. But when we're thinking about others and people who we might not think about, we talked about Jay Shree, but Andrew from Stainless Steel's wife, Jolene, has been a big part of this process as well, right? She's the one who's been cataloging all the invoices and sharing them when somebody needs them and chasing people for their insurance coverage and everything else, hand in glove with Jay Shree, myself, etc. For a time frame, when I was running as a candidate, I needed to leave my role with the BIA. It was deemed to be a conflict, so I had to step aside. And Danae Pellington, who happens to now work with me, stepped into that role for a number of months and was shepherding through this process. Now, there may have been a little bit of whispering in the background from myself to make sure that she had all the information she needed because it is a complex project to step into in the middle, but like she stayed in and made sure that continued to go through those months to make sure that there was no loss of momentum, as a result of the election, which was really crucial. And then, Andrew himself has just been a gem to work with. Dave Cook, who's really helpful in providing historical information. Yourself, when I was writing the grants. Mike Miller, who connected us to VARCON and also to PPG, but also connected me into many of the federal connections for heritage, et cetera, to have those conversations about funding streams and what that could look like. There's a host of people who got involved and did work. Obviously, credit to Fram for their support of this project and Frank Gianfoni, but he also had an employee, Lutz, who was working from Texas on this project and then came in to make sure that the base was there, right? And frankly, if you don't have the foundation, you don't have the plane.
Yep.
And so there's a whole lot of that. Jordan Wu from the city who is involved, Maurice Savoy, who is the lawyer, Julia, who's the staff person in the city, who's been integral in all of those meetings, from, the start to the very finish. She's been a part of it. It was an interesting transition for her as I changed roles, to shift from me being the GM to the counselor. And, so there was a lot of those changes along the way, and for Sam Kohli as well. But really and truly, it's pretty outstanding to think that so many of the people who are involved from the beginning are still a part of it as well, which is really a beautiful thing.
Well, it speaks to the passion that goes into something like this, I think, and yeah, it's a remarkable story. We know the story of the plane itself, but the passion and the legacy that this has created in the community
Mhm.
transcends generations in a way, right? Like this is, I always said if you're stuck for a conversation in Mississauga at any point in time, just say, "Hey, what do you think about the Avro Arrow?"
Yeah, for sure.
So you, the Avro Arrow is sited or situated now, the replica in what we've dubbed the Flight Garden in Paul Coffey Park up in Malton. But the park itself has gone under an incredible facelift. It is stunning.
And continues
It
to.
continues, yes. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the setting for the Avro Arrow and what that does for the community of Malton and the wider city, and maybe some of the things that you hope that it brings to Malton?
I mean, first of all, I want to emphasize the fact that, well, it's about, bringing things to Malton is your question, but this is for the people in Malton, right? This is a local park. It's not designated as a tourism or destination park. It is still home to local picnics, local families, a playground, a splash pad, our hockey arena, a skate park, cricket pitch, a, it's got basketball, it's got tennis, it's got pickleball, it is got trails to walk on. It is really and truly at its heart a local park, and this is a part of honoring what local means in Malton, which is often aviation, right? We're home to the largest airport in Canada, the second largest airport in North America, undergoing tremendous builds, and so it's only right that our park is also undergoing tremendous renovations and uplifts at the same time as we're seeing the lift program launch at Pearson, right? They go hand in hand. As aviation goes, so does Malton. And so this is just a testament to that growth.
Yeah. And what about just what you hope it brings to the wider city? I mean, you said this is the largest public art piece that's coming in that sense, but something like this, what it could bring or mean to the city of Mississauga in terms of just your hope for it.
Well, I think it's a chance to look at how we can reimagine our public spaces, right? Like, how do you combine art? How do you combine history? And how do you combine the current moment to make sure that you're bringing those things together so that people that are newer to a community or growing up in a community learn a little bit about their past while still enjoying nature and fun and the outdoors? All things that we think of when we think of a typical Canadian summer, right? And so this really exemplifies that opportunity. I'd also like to point out that when we're talking about honoring history and honoring the people that have come before us in the community, we also took the time to revitalize the cenotaph area and are making some improvements in there, which is frankly a really important part of that history as well. So it's nice to see that we're taking care of that part of our past at the same time as well.
And really, it's become a focal point more in the park today than I think it originally was. And
Mhm. Yep.
what it really is,
With even better access with a pedestrian bridge going
yes,
across and everything else, so that there's more points of ways to get there. You don't have to drive by it. You can park and walk over in comfort. And I think that that's important, and it's accessible. There's pathways for you to be able to see there. If you're differently mobile, it's still something that you'll be able to enjoy and see.
yeah, I know. I just exceptional work all around. The replica coming. I keep saying coming home to Mississauga. I love that idea. You made a great analogy there. I hadn't thought of it that way. Or landing in Mississauga, or the bringing it home and having it land here, and it's exceptional.
Mhm.
And just kudos to you, to everyone who's had a hand in it, and just thank you for joining us and exploring the Avro Arrow, which will be unveiled on Thursday evening.
I can't wait until it's joined by its partner in Molten history with the Lancaster.
Well, that's the next chapter. We'll start that on Thursday or Friday morning.
I think it's fair to say that it's a chapter that we're already starting. We just haven't
Fair,
gotten there
fair.
yet. Okay, it's just at the sketch outline stage, but we will
Uh,
definitely be getting there.
I think it's an exceptional dream to have, and just goes to show you. Not, I mean, through Councillor Parrish's work, yourself, and all the other hands, you have the dream. You made it happen, and here we are. At least Thursday, we can celebrate this chapter, and I think it's remarkable.
It really truly is. Thank you so much, Matthew.
Thank you for joining us. Take care. Well, thank you, Sam, for joining us here on Ask the Historian to discuss and cover a topic I know is near and dear to your heart and has taken a good chunk of your life for the last 9 years. But thank you for spending some time with us here.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Just the fact that we're covering this well is such a big deal for all of us, and it's an exciting week coming up for all of us.
Oh, can't wait for Thursday and frankly beyond. I mean,
Yes,
this is
yes, for sure.
Thursday's not just a one-off. This is a permanent installation in Malton, and
Yes, sir.
um, it has been a long road.
Yes, sir.
Not a good road, but a long road. How did you get involved? What inspired you to get to take up the charge here?
Well, I would tell you this. Back in 20, I don't even know what year it is. It's 9 years ago at this point. When the CF-100 project was the big refurbishment that was going on, and then Councillor Parrish, took it upon herself to like put together as much raising in the community, the money to make it more efficient. But I know Heritage Mississauga and a lot of groups wanted the CF-100 to be done well. So during that refurbishment, when we had our ceremony, Councillor Parrish and I were standing there. We were like, and we both had our thoughts at the same time. We're like, imagine the Avro. And she goes, yes, it's been a lingering thought in this community for decades. How do we celebrate the Avro? And that's exactly the day we decided we want to go for this. So it was sort of a challenge between us to say, can we pull this off? And the discussion started back then. And that was about 9 years now. So from the day the discussion happened to the fact that the project is up, sometimes things last a long time. And we've been very lucky and blessed that all the original folks that were part of the project and all of us who joined in later on, where we still had a very good continuous group of people that pulled it right till the end. And we've had some amazing folks that have helped us since then.
Well, I certainly want to touch on those that have been giants in the project and have helped bring it along, but be remiss to say that you weren't among the leaders of it, and I know you've been recognized in the past for your leadership of it. And hat tip, do you want to talk a little bit about a little thing that you received a couple of years ago?
Yes, from Heritage, from a few years ago, from Heritage Mississauga, I personally got accolades as well, and I have it right here. One of the most proudest moments of my life. I received a business leader award specifically for the work I've done with the Malton BIA, but reality was for the Avro Arrow and helping lead this with Councillor Parrish and all the others who were involved that we went with. Now it's Mayor Parrish now, but
Yes.
during that time, I'm being very specific on the timeline.
I remember just a personal aside with Councillor Parrish before she was elected mayor, with interim Councillor Dave Cook sitting on the Heritage Advisory Committee with the city, and she came into a meeting one time about probably 9 years ago and went, "We're going to build an arrow."
We were excited. We were really, really, really excited back then. And I'll tell you my personal reason why the arrow mattered to me. My late father owned a company called Malton Machinery, and my mom was a teacher in Darcel Public School in Malton.
Okay.
So I've grown up listening to this from the late 80s to the 90s in my formative years. Why did we ever get rid of the Avro? Because my father worked with a lot of companies, a lot of folks in the industrial side that were involved or, one away from being involved. So it was a lot of folklore and a lot of discussion about, we should have done this, because his attitude, and that's the attitude of a lot, is if you start building this and you're creating new technology, because back then it kind of was for Canada to get into the fighter jet ecosystem, what you do is you support your best and brightest, and you don't know the consequences of them doing great things. They're going to create how many companies and how much of a future. So there's actually a business case to always try to do as much development and R&D in your country. Yep. Number two, it was a matter of pride. For Canadians, we've never built our own fighter jets at that level going past World War II. Prior to that, we were heavily involved in World War II. We had one of the largest navies. We did a lot. And so for Canadians, it would have been huge. And for our Malton community, it would have been amazing and a big inspiration for us to be at that project. So we just said, could you imagine if we did it? We'd be very, very similar to like Saab in its home country and all the employees in there, but also as it would be a national treasure for the country. So we always felt that. I grew up feeling that we should have done it.
I 100% I agree. And there's an underlying current of thought when it comes to the Avro Arrow for me was it's an unrealized dream. Like that dream was to reach for the stars and to really, like you said, it's the investment in your country. It's investment in your own brain force, your own brain trust, your people that are making it. who knows what that would have come in,
Yeah.
gone on to become. And so I've always said that the death of the Avro Arrow in a way was as a big hit on the brain trust of Canada at that time.
I agree. I
And
agree.
it's not just the loss of an airplane; it's the loss of that trusted workforce that was creating something
Yeah.
incredibly advanced.
And there was all these technical arguments about, well, the exact plane, we may not have needed it after the Cold War and so on.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We did
No.
need it at the time, but the actual brain trust you build and all the ecosystem you build with all
Yep.
the support companies would have definitely done whatever we require, right? So it could have led to so much more
Yep.
locally where we own it. And so, it would have been a champion for Canada. And that's probably why. And I think for the community of Malton, it continues to be one of the most aerospace driven communities in Canada. I
Yep.
mean, a lot of the employees that work inside the airport live in Malton.
Yep.
A lot of the industrial base around, including one of the big Bombardier projects, is all in Malton. So we continue to do that. But this would have been a great dream that would have been amazing to realize.
Well, maybe in hindsight, if we can look back at this moment 20 years from now, is that maybe this is the restart of a dream of sorts where, it's not,
I agree.
don't be afraid to reach.
Don't be afraid. Canadians have to aim higher and keep striving. When you're kids, you can't just say you're limiting your dreams. Go for it, and that's what we want. We want Canadians to be doing that, and we want our Malton residents and the kids of the future. We really want them to do that. So that was one of my primary. It was always built inside me. So it was something that just came out. I said, I agree. We got to do this. It's a symbol of our excellence, and when you build statues and so on, you're celebrating individual people. Here, you're celebrating technology, growth, and all of what it means.
Yeah.
And as we got into this, the amount of people that started supporting us, I didn't even realize all the fan clubs and I don't know, even the different folks that are so obsessed with this project and have so much technical knowledge on it. And the historical knowledge was just amazing for us. And you start to meet them as you go along.
I did a conference some years ago, and one of the speakers said, he goes, there's more published material written on local history relating to the Avro Arrow than any other single subject in Canadian history.
Yes. I agree. And this is where it's home. So one of our mottos is we're bringing the Avro home.
Yes.
And that's one of the main things. This is the home. And I think, I'm glad we're doing it. Maybe we should have done it a few decades ago. But I think we're coming to a time in our country where, again, every Canadian needs to start realizing what's our future. We got to, do things on our own a lot more, and we need to be independent and support our own people to do these things. So I hope this will be a big inspiration to the younger Canadians, especially, and of course those who, reminisce about the project. They have a place to come see it and take their photographs with it as well.
Absolutely, and nothing wrong with being proud of Canadian achievement as well, and that's something to celebrate in that regard.
Agreed.
We've talked a few times on the army that it takes to create something like this, and can you give a hat tip to? I know it's always a concern you're going to miss somebody, but there are so many hands in this, and I just want to make sure that we're covering bases here on just those that have been really involved with this and have helped to bring it to life.
Yep, sure. I will say right when the project started and we started discussing it right away, Councillor Parrish and I were there. Our GM was Natalie Hart, our manager for the BIA, who's now Councillor Hart. So I will say this project has brought such good karma for everybody because as they do things, you know what I mean? Good things have happened to them. So Natalie was very involved. She became almost our project manager early on because we were dealing with sponsorship because Councillor Parrish said we will try to raise a lot of the money because we found it difficult to raise money at the time. So we had to raise a lot of money. So that was there. A lot of in-kind gifts were supposed to be given to us. So there was a lot of coordination. And then there was a technical and the engineering side where we picked the right partners to implement the project. So I'll say Councillor Hart was amazing from day one. And she was our GM. And then when she ran for elections and won, we had this little gap, and then we found Jayshree Patel, who's our new manager, who everybody, not just myself, everybody in the project gives her amazing credit to bring it all home. And Jayshree is an absolute amazing manager of details as well. She may see the big picture, but she actually is the one who gets the little pictures done. So when I'm dealing with all the different vendors and all the folks to bring together at the end, I mean, we're dealing with a city, a lot of legal rules, and half the time our issue was, okay, can we implement it on this day? We didn't receive this certificate. That won't be accepted. There was a lot of situations where, if you had a thinner skin, you would say, oh my God, will this ever get done in time? And then folks like Jayashree would just bulldoze it through, and she was amazing. And I must have been having daily conversations with her for 8-9 months on this project. So I would give, first of all, our BIA folks who happen to be doing a lot. Then I would also like to say, the folks who actually helped put the project together, some of the biggest helpers were stainless steel outfitters. You've probably heard about Andrew O'Connor, but he was simply amazing to take on the big project. And his company does a lot of the stainless steel work that they do, boat hulls and so on. And the main technical reason was we wanted to create a replica. We found it very difficult to look at. We've already been through the CF-100. We found it very difficult to just pick up a Avro that might be around, if available, maybe refurbish and put it up. We saw that this project, we wanted to last 50, 100 years without any major refurbishment. This should be going into multiple generations. So you do want to build it custom as a replica so that all the high wind that comes in, we've had wind tunnel checks on this. There's a lot of engineering that goes in the exact angle that the plane went based on the wind that's coming in, the actual pedestal, the way it was done. The idea is we don't want to be worried about anything happening to the Avro Arrow that we install for decades and decades to come.
Right.
With the CF-100 project, which we discussed earlier, it keeps going through a refurbishment every couple of decades because it was an actual real plane that was placed in there. So we wanted to make something that works perfectly for a long time. So I would say Andrew, amazing, from stainless steel. I'll say Varcon Engineering did a lot of engineering work, and they gave us a lot of in-kind engineering work in this process. And they were very early on, jumped on and said, we can handle this. And they've been amazing with us. And I will say Frank Giannoni, who represents the Brightwater Partnership. So that's the large project with all the big developers down south. When they heard about this, they're like, we want to take part in it. And Carolyn asked them, like, how would you be able to help us? So we'll build the base, all that concrete work. And lo and behold, some of us realized that's a huge chunk of change. Some of the biggest money isn't even anything to do with the plane itself. It was the site. And the base is very expensive because it's all engineered to take on massive amounts of weight. Right. And so it was something that they jumped on board, and they've been supporting us. So I'm just highlighting three of our partners who we call sponsors, but honestly, they're our partners, and they really help bring the vision to life for sure.
It is a vision, right? And it's it's set within. People are going to look up, obviously, and see the arrow, but it's also involved in a refurbishment of what is now the Flight Garden, the former Legion Memorial Gardens, where the CF-100, moving the cenotaph, really making the whole site a focal point. I drove by and I think, wow, this has come a long way.
Yep. I'll tell you something interesting. When we formed the BIA, which was in 2014, we came up with a big, and this is coming from the business side of things for our business owners. We looked at, we're a BIA, where we're located in Malton. We're different than Port Credit and everybody else in Streetsville. What makes us different? And one of the main things we recognize is we're next to the airport. So our whole logo has a plane. It has a train because we're near the railway station. We realize that Malton is a working class neighborhood that supports, it's an engine for our country. We're not next to the water like Port Credit, so they celebrate all the water activities. We're not Streetsville. So we knew that made us unique. Right. And early on, we knew that the Flight Garden was where we wanted to invest in. So prior to the Flight Garden, one of the first projects we helped do was the Paul Coffey Arena, the rebranding and the renaming. We're involved with that. We assisted Councillor Parrish when she did her Castles Playground. Our first sign from Malton, you go to the front of the arena, that's our sign. We put it right there. So our goal was to bring as much attention as possible to that location because we saw that as being the future for Malton. And as the CF-100 happened, we saw a few projects happening. We started to create that momentum. And so when the Avro started happening, a lot of things fell into place. Besides the Flight Garden, the city of Mississauga has invested, I think, 30 or 40 million in the giant park that's right behind it. So there's a lot of priority in Mississauga on this area. And I think very early on, we recognized as a BIA that that's where we want to put in our energy as well. So we're very satisfied that now you're seeing the achievements, 12, 15 years later, starting to come into play.
Well, you've already probably 90% answered the next question. I was going to ask about the role of the Malton BIA. And I mean, I see it as maybe rejuvenation's the wrong word, but a celebration of Malton and bringing back kind of a shining light, not just on Malton, but in Malton, if that makes
Agree.
sense. And
I agree.
can you just reflect a little bit on kind of what the
The
BIA is
Yes, I
done?
will tell you. So the BIA is a group of businesses that form under a boundary. And the businesses, we actually pay for our own activities. In fact, we help pay towards a lot of the Avro Arrow. So we can actually tax ourselves. The city taxes us a little surcharge on our tax, and we pool all of it together. We form a board of directors, and then I was personally the original chairperson for the steering committee. And it all started with actually Councillor Bonnie Crombie. So
Okay.
when she started, she was the one who got us going, and she was trying to say, you guys got to get going with the BIA. And one of the things we heard early on was all of us in Malton were always complaining, hey, we don't get enough attention from the city. And that was a main point, because if you look historically, Malton is kind of in the top right corner of Mississauga, but it feels disjointed. So a lot of people don't realize, is it Brampton, is it Malton? And if you look at the core reason for that, is after the 401 was built, it actually split Malton away from Mississauga a bit. So the number of roads that go south and north is a lot fewer. So when you start realizing it from that perspective, we kind of became an island after all this infrastructure was done. We wanted to make sure that Malton's voice is really heard well. So Councillor Bonnie Crombie had said, Sam, she actually put a tap me on the shoulder and say, you should try to lead this because you got to bring people together. So we actually formed a steering committee. We started the BIA in 2014. Our original goal was first define ourselves. What's our brand? What our goal is. And our goal is to rejuvenate Malton, make it pretty, beautiful, a great destination, make it somewhere that others want to come to. So that we help all the businesses who are core folks that we're focused on. But when you lift everybody else, the businesses by default do better. And that's one of the first results we've seen in the last 15 years. There was empty places that weren't being leased in the 2015, 2014, 2013. There's a lot of that. And the spaces are mostly leased out. There's very little occupancy issues in Malton. So it became more and better of a business hub when you started doing all these other activities. So our agenda was that from day one.
I'm excited with it. And I always tell people, like, the Mississauga coat of arms has the wings of aviation for Malton on it, and
Yes.
it's the topmost symbol on the shield. So it tells you a little bit about.
These are some of the good things. I think the first lesson we have to learn in all these different communities is, if you want to get heard, and this is like, we're a case study for it. You don't just sit there and be louder and louder. What you actually do is lead, do something, have a unified voice. So when we have a Malton BIA, we're a unified voice that speaks at the city. We want this, we want to aim for that, we work together. And what ends up happening is you get the attention from the city, and you actually create the snowball effect, I call it. So that was the only issue for Malton. I found that people just forgot us. Just because we're in the corner, we kind of get cut off a little bit. And I don't think that's no longer an issue. I think we're right at the heart of Mississauga and the hearts and minds of other Mississaugans.
And you've come off now several councillors in a row that have really made Malton a focal point of discussion in the city. And so it is that long-term continuous support, I think, that really helps cement.
100%.
And you, as a lifelong resident of Malton.
Technically, I'm not a resident of Malton. I'm a resident of another part of Mississauga, but I'm a business resident. And that's why most of our BIA board may not be even living in Malton. I live in a little bit outside, but the truth is we are all focused on it because all our business investments are in there. And we also want the area to get better. So I'm a generational, in a sense.
But all I was meaning is you must have seen this over a long period of time evolve, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
100%. And we just wanted to lead people, do something, become that shiny light, and inspire. And I think if you speak to Mayor Parrish, you speak to Councillor Hart, that's the first thing they keep saying. We want to inspire. We want to inspire the youth. We want to inspire. So that's one of your goals. Secondly, we become a tourist hotspot.
Yes.
Is our goal is when people come into the city, they fly into the airport. We want them to drop into Malton for reasons. So now we're giving you reasons to come in.
I always said there's the things like, how many people have been to Malton? I said, everyone who comes to Pearson.
Yeah, they don't realize it, right? And we also thank Pearson. They actually have a gallery called, I think it's the Malton Gallery.
Yep.
So they've also, the GTA has been also recognizing Malton more and more, and they helped us on this project as well. So I think when you start having a unified voice, everybody else starts to pay attention. And I think that's our BIA's vision, is give us attention, focus on us as well. We're going to do our part. And before you know it, it's going to uplift everybody.
Well, exceptional, and just I applaud you for the energy and enthusiasm. It comes through and you guys done an amazing job. Let's end on one question, and that is just what do you hope that this brings? And I know you've already touched on a bunch of things, but for Malton, for Mississauga, unveiling the Avro on Thursday evening, and it'll be there for generations and generations, we hope. And so, what do you hope this brings for the community?
I think the community could really use an inspired shot in the arm. And I think that's one we're going to be giving. I think we have to remind our community and the rest of Mississaugans and Canadians, look at what we did do when we needed to do it. So we're in this phase in our country's history where Canadians are looking inside and saying, what are we capable of? What can we do? We need to celebrate and lift up all the voices, all the things that we have done, remind Canadians what we were able to do in the past. And I think this project is one amazing way to do that, because it's not just us celebrating a statue or something of that nature. We're celebrating an achievement,
Right.
an achievement that means to all of us, all the work that went into it, all the brains, all the dedicated time, all the hours, all the capital, the money, all the governments working together to make this happen. And I will say something to a lot of people who know about this project, saying the folks that were really involved in developing the Avro, and when it got disbanded, a lot of them actually went down to the US and helped build their space program.
Yep.
So, this is what happens when you don't keep Canadians going, because they can create so many achievements, which will ultimately lead to better lives for all of us, better economies, and so on. So I'm hoping it inspires the next generation. I'm also hoping it inspires a lot of folks to visit us in Malton and see this. And those who are new Canadians who don't know about the Avro, what it meant for this country, should see it. They should be able to see, oh my God, what happened? Read about the history. It's I never knew. Nobody ever says Canada ever even had a fighter jet. We just heard about Bombardier and they were doing passenger jets. So we want to open people's eyes. And I think and remember this, one more interesting things we did on purpose. When you fly into the airport, you're going to be seeing the Avro.
That's
so
exciting.
when we put our Malton sign with the letters that were up there, we put those up during COVID. Right. And one of the main goals was, it is Malton, it has a heart on the inside. Was that when you're flying up and down, people are noticing Malton. The word Malton became much more popular if you started looking at social media. Yep. And people posting. So it works. So if we have the plane up there, we think a lot of people flying in will say, oh my God, what's that? Maybe they'll start checking their phone. Well, that's the Avro Arrow. Why don't I drop in? I'm going to come out here. I'm going to grab an Uber. I know I have a hotel somewhere. Why can't I go do this? Or my flight out, let me go check it out. And our hope, of course, is the trickle-down effect into our community. And I will say this, I know Mayor Parrish is probably talking about the Lancaster a lot. Yep. So there is another vision to try to aim for that next. So once this project is there, we're not done. We're just going to keep going. If we can.
Triumvirate to come.
Because you know what? It's the word we use it's the trifecta, right? The CF-100, the Avro, and the Lancaster, all these planes were built in Malton, right? So we want to celebrate that.
I what a lofty goal. I mean, to have achieve what you've achieved so far, but to dream ahead is
have to.
Nothing more inspiring than that.
You know what? You just because you've achieved it, it's not always the achievement. It's the thought behind it and the vision and the fact that we bring people together. And hopefully, if we aim for something next, a lot of new folks will get involved and say, I want to get involved with that project. And that's why when we're recognizing a lot of folks who were involved with this project this Thursday, the sponsors, the donors, and all the leaders, we're hoping it inspires others who also would love to give their talent and help us in the next set of projects, because they could see that we've proven it. Look, we've pulled this off. We have more to do.
It is inspiring, and like you said, hopefully that brings in that community support. But Sam, thank you so very much for not only it's very simple to say thank you for what you've done, but truly it is inspiring to see it. And I know you've been right from the beginning of it, the mover and shaker behind a lot of this, and just to really appreciate all the work, the passion, the community focus, and the tremendous work that you and the Malton BIA have done in the community and continue to do. Just again, thank you for spending some time with us here.
Thank you so much. And my last thank you goes out, I think the biggest thank you to the city of Mississauga. I think that our city has done an amazing job of supporting us from the technical side to the financial side. Our tourism arm helped support with funding for this project as well. There was so much done from the city, and we know that just because we're leading this project, we know it's a city project, because the city, everybody in there wants this done, is excited about it. So we thank the city. We thank you. You represent Heritage Mississauga. We appreciate everything, because you actually are the ones that gave us a lot of the information and have inspired us by keeping that record of our history. So that's what inspired me as well, and I appreciate everything you do. So thank you.
Well, we look forward to you'll see some temporary plaques unveiled on Thursday.
Yes.
Permanent ones are coming. But just what a remarkable story and achievement to share. This replica brings so much to our city, and just to Malton in particular. And looking forward to hearing all the chatter about it as well.
Yes, excited. Very excited. Thank you again, Matthew.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for spending some time with us here on Ask a Historian. And thank you to Mayor Carolyn Parrish, Councillor Natalie Hart, and Malton BIA Chair Sam Kohli for joining us on this week's episode as we welcome home the Avro Arrow. Like, subscribe, and follow us for updates on our programs and events, and join us next time on Ask a Historian for more fascinating stories of Mississauga's history.